everybody, it's me, the Einstein on Wall Street from the balcony at the New York Stock Exchange. Trade like Einstein from Money News Network and every other platform there is in the world that's going to listen to this. I'm here with Brandon Dawson, serial entrepreneur, founder, CEO, and the head of 10X. We'll talk about all those things. He has broken every barrier and every ceiling for the last 50 plus years, I would say. He's probably not that old at all. So we're here on the balcony of the Stock Exchange, the greatest financial institution in the world. This couldn't be a better place to talk to this gentleman who has done so much in so many different industries. At the age of 29, he actually rang the bell, the youngest person to ever ring the bell on the Amex, the American Stock Exchange, unfortunately no longer in existence, but imagine that as a 29-year-old to be here, to be on the Amex. And a lot of what happened on the Amex ended up coming down to the New York Stock Exchange. Welcome to Trade Like Einstein.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Absolute pleasure. I'm actually honored when I started learning more about you. So David Meltzer, my mentor, my friend, my teacher, who introduced us, was somebody who changed my life when I was dying from COVID. He popped up on my phone, and at one of my darkest moments, he was the person who sort of pulled me up out of that, and has been my life coach and mentor since then.
Yeah,
and so anybody who David introduces me to is, I know, is going to be someone extraordinary.
Yeah, good.
So I need to know everything about you because you are doing so many things. Let's just start about your journey, the beginning. Just give me a little breakdown. You at 26, before your 29 debut.
Yeah, so I was working for a hearing aid manufacturer running sales out of Minneapolis, high performer, but I wanted to do something bigger. A lot of my customers were retiring and just shutting their businesses down. So I became the first person to have the idea, instead of just having those customers shut their business down, what if I go out and buy them and become a customer of the company I was selling for?
Right.
And so that was my first entry into entrepreneurialism, and raised $1 million after 100 presentations. Eventually found my way to New York City with a group in Texas that were helping me, and raised $28 million with Warburg Pincus, and started acquiring businesses, about 136 businesses in 3 years.
How did you know to do that? I mean, go back to you in, let's say, college or growing up. There had to have been a point where your journey was going one way and you sort of pivoted, and that sort of that sort of brought you to that point where you could even have that mindset. It's all about mindset.
Yeah, it is. And the thing is, I came from a little town in Oregon. I didn't go to college. I barely got out of high school. I was voted least likely to succeed. But I knew that I didn't want to stay put in a little town. And so I moved to Atlanta and became an outside sales rep for a device company, and traveled 11 states between the ages of 19 and 22 and became number one. And then I moved to Minneapolis, took over the sales team. And so I just learned to communicate. I always say I learned to communicate with adults and be comfortable with it. And because we're in the hearing care space, most of my customers are older people. So I got very comfortable communicating with older people. And that helped me in my career, actually, because those communication skills transferred over when I was sitting in front of institutions trying to raise millions of dollars, getting thrown out, told, you're a kid, what kid you know, you've never done anything. But I just stayed with it, the resilience. And then I got backed by a group out of Dallas, Texas. And then they brought me to Wall Street here and started showing me around, made hundreds of presentations, finally raised my first 18 million with Warburg Pincus, another 28 with Warburg Pincus, and acquired all these businesses. And then they had a stipulation when they gave me my final round of financing. They said, we're going to give it to you, but we want you to list on the American Stock Exchange. We're going to help you do it. And a dream come true, because I never thought, for me, that was in the cards.
And look, I mean, to think about it, so Warburg Pincus, one of the great takeover merger acquisition companies of the 80s and 90s, ended up, I mean, that's just an amazing story. You should actually read up on them, because that's entrepreneurship at the grandest scale here on Wall Street. So to think about that at 29 years old, to be ringing the bell, and that was just the beginning of that. Was, I mean, you've had so many beginnings, I mean, which is amazing. I want to go back for a second to that, because I'm also somebody who has always surrounded myself with older people, because that's where we learn from, right? It's all about experience and learning from other people's experience, right? Hope. Hearing other people's experience. That's kind of the way you grow. And
it allows you to expand up here.
Exactly. I mean, what I don't know is my biggest problem. I need, and some people, it's like humility, right? Which is going back to David Meltzer.
If you're still staying around all the people you grew up with that aren't doing any of that, you're never going to go through personal expansion.
Exactly. Okay, so you ring the bell, you have the company, and and also communication skills,
Yeah.
right? I mean, because that for me, that's what's exciting. I want people to know your story and what made you the person you are today. And that communication skills is key, right?
And
That's
being bold. I mean, being told no 100 times.
Right.
I learned after the 78th time that the no wasn't N-O, it was I don't know, K-N-O-W, why I should trust you. And then I had to look in the mirror and go, why should they trust me? I'm just a kid, I've never done anything.
Yeah.
And so I had to change my pitch from I can do this to if you trust me and I listen to you and you help me, here's the opportunity and together we can go get it. And then I started getting people to say, okay, well, we'll take a risk on you.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't the greatest success because Warburg sold it in 2001 and I literally had to start over. But they used to take me to all the companies they were investing in and show me what platform companies looked like, consolidation theories, what all these different things, leadership. And so I had this mental image of what success could look like. And then I started studying the small business space and how difficult it is for those small business owners to actually ever get big.
Right.
And I started looking at the arbitrage private equity was gaining. And I realized if I could create a new business system for small business owners that could get them to scale without giving up their equity by partnering with them. And so I created my own equity model. Had to go back and forth with the SEC and launched it in 2005, bootstrapped a business from 2005 to 2016, building out these concepts.
Right.
I was having so much success when the world was melting down in 9, 10, and 11, helping these business owners and my own business, that I hired FTI out of Chicago and we looked at thousands and thousands of businesses, talked to tens of thousands of business owners, looked at roll-up strategies, disruption models, convergence models, and I wanted to create my own algorithm for predicting the future in the small business space.
Way before algorithms were even a
way
thing.
before,
I mean,
way before that. And so
amazing.
I started in 2009, 10, 11. I built this system called the Transformational Growth Platform. And then I sold my business for 77 times EBITDA that I bootstrapped. And then we helped a $1 billion company, a Danish public company, and a New York listed company go to $4.5 billion in 36 months, deploying it in 8 countries. And then I found Grant Cardone, the only person on this planet that's raised over $2 billion in crowdfunding for a $5.5 billion portfolio of multifamily from his community. And I said, what you're doing in real estate with your community, I can do in business with your community. And so we launched a business 60 months ago from scratch, bootstrapped using my concepts, and we did $250 million last year. We're spawning off 2 different companies. Our 10X Health business went from $1.8 million to $150 million in 3 years.
Let me stop you for a second. Let's talk about 10X. But also, so, I mean, the numbers are daunting, right?
Yeah.
I don't want people to get all freaked out because people can get overwhelmed and just sort of like have envy with the billions of dollars. That's not the point, really.
Yep.
The point is how are you able to do that? The scale thing, the scale thing, sorry, I don't mean to call it a thing, but the scaling platform and that concept that you sort of built, not everybody can do that. Most people cannot. And you would think about it, well, why you know, those individual entrepreneurs, those people who with startups who get to $1 million or $5 million, everybody who's probably out there is thinking, well, you know, it happens, right? You get to be 5 and 20 million. And that's not how it happens. More people, and I'm sure you know the numbers on this, more people fail for probably from 1 to 20 million in their growth because they don't know what they're doing. They had a good idea. They had some good people around them, but they obviously got to those stumbling blocks, those pebbles in the shoe and bumps in the road where they didn't know what to do next, right? And so that scaling concept is, I mean, you literally, I'm really excited to know so much more about that. We'll do that another time, but that's huge. That's the basis of big business.
Well, it's 45% of our economy. It's 49% of the workforce, and it's a $16 trillion market, and only 9% of 34 million businesses make it over $1 million.
Right. Exactly.
So it's very difficult to go from startup to $100 million. Right. And so what I wanted to do is be able to create a platform and a system that allowed people that were good operators, conscientious people, wanted to operate legal, moral, ethically, and compliantly, wanted to be good people, to rally good people behind them and share in the success of the business. And I thought the easiest way to do that would be bypassing the private equity side and building a business that helped them grow and scale, but keeping the equity within the group and then sharing the equity with their employees. So when I sold my company, I bootstrapped. I made my employees and my customers my partner, and I bypassed Wall Street. And when I sold, I wired $38 million out to my customers saying thank you, and I gave $18 million to my employees, said thank you, and I took $100 million, $78 million out of it at the point of sale, and then another $20 million later. But the point is, to your point, it's not the big numbers, it's not the billions of dollars. At the end of the day, that $16 trillion market, 97% of that market either sits and does nothing or goes out of business every 10 years.
Right.
And so it's such an important part of our national economy and of the employment force. And there's so many phenomenal, because most of that's family owned. And so if you can help the family, they can help the community. If they can help the community, we can help this country, and then we can help the country be strong. And so me, it's a bigger mission, but it's all about value creation, ethics, treating people well, and then bringing those businesses, once we're at scale and we're highly effective, when we're highly valuable and we've been organized, and structured and operationalized and leadership and systematized, then we bring them to market. And what we do is we bypass all the slothing around that happens that creates devaluation in the growth cycle. And then that extra value increase on the enterprise can be shared amongst the employees, us as partners. And so we're launching our private equity venture group to actually start taking an active investment interest in rolling up those different industries we're working in as well.
So, okay, so for people to be able to decipher what he just said is, there's a difference between, so how do you bypass this market? So you create a product, you create a company, and then Wall Street notices it, and they want you to go. There are a couple of reasons why people go public. It's either for an early exit or it's to raise capital to grow, right? But once you do that, it sort of starts to splinter that company that was started probably family owned and had really a good goal and a humble beginning, and then suddenly it gets sucked up into the whirlwind of Wall Street and whatnot. And the people who started the company with humble beginnings and a really great idea may never end up being in it, or have brought this amazing family and environment with them to that next step, right? It just kind of splinters out. Company may become public, and it's just becomes a number on a sheet.
It's already difficult to get big and put compliance in place, put systems in place, put leadership in place, put strategy in place, understand economics, macroeconomics, microeconomics, global economics. Like, that's not what started the business. 88% of the people started the business because they were good at something. They didn't want a boss. They didn't want to be told what to do. They didn't want a limitation on their earnings, and they wanted to have control of their future. And as they get bigger, those things get harder. So they start controlling it and staying small. And the reality is if they just learn to let little pieces go and trust people,
it's a team game.
It can be huge. And they, once they realize that, there's a percentage that realize it, and then they're like, the trust is high, let's go all in, and you can move at the speed of trust. And if you can move at the speed of trust in a marketplace that already exists, everyone needs it, home services, medical, things of this nature, but it's inefficient, ineffective, and not that valuable because it's so splintered. So when you bring it together, well, then they come to Wall Street and there's all these new rules, there's all these new things they have to do, there's new levels of compliance, new levels of sophistication, reporting factors they have to, so it's just outside their comfort zone. So they would rather be a part of something, get the value of that, continue to be a part of it, but not have to get burdened by all the complexity.
So you talk about trust and confidence. Those are the two biggest things that scare people from going to the next step. They didn't meet you. They had someone who came to them who just kind of wanted an early exit, wanted to make a bunch of money and take their idea. Or people fall in love with their idea. I mean, you can watch it if you ever watch Shark Tank. There are people who come into the tank and they're so in love with they don't want to realize that I'd rather have 20% of a $100 million company than 90% of a company that does nothing. So that team mentality, confidence and trust, that's the first thing, and people are scared off of that. We're taught to not trust anybody, especially somebody who comes to you. Also, that team mentality. I'm a big team person. I would rather just be, look, the world is so over-specialized, and that's good. People think it's not a good thing. If you're good at something, like I always tell people, the first thing I speak to a lot of younger people is find something you love, right? Get really good at it, and then that's the beginning of your journey, right? And so when, that's the exciting part of this thing, but it's, not everybody runs into you and runs into somebody who has that big, because it's a huge picture.
Well, and I hired FTI, a consulting firm, and we broke down tens of thousands of businesses, and then IGS again in 16, 17, 18, refreshed it. What we wanted to be able to do is understand the predictors in these small markets. And obviously you can say, well, if you're Wall Street, the predictors are earnings per share, they're trading multiples.
It's so much more than that.
But it really is so much more than that.
Those are numbers.
And you have markets that are disrupted and they converge, they come together, and then they create new markets. And so what we really wanted to do was get in front of the market transformations that happen,
Right.
make sure the small business owner, because here's the fact, I have never seen a successful business. Well, there's a couple out there now, but generally speaking, traditional businesses, I have never seen a big successful business that didn't have a lot of people.
Yeah.
And the problem with small business owners is they keep their circle small. The average business owner in the small business space, if they're under $100 million, they're sitting at 3 million or less with 12 employees or less. They're probably related to a couple. They're friends with some of them, and there's no accountability, there's no discipline, there's no structure, there's no strategy, and it boils down to existence. And when you start staying the same revenues and the costs stagnant and the costs start going up every single year, rent,
It blows it.
45% new money
It
printed,
dies on the vine.
all these things, cost to your materials. The pressure and the stress and the resistance creates fear, anxiety, and anger.
Yes.
And so at the root of it, if I can pull the fear, anxiety, and anger away and replace it with enthusiasm, replace it with excitement and community.
And everyone with skin in the game, right? You just said
that's
that
right.
you, when you had one of your exits, that you sent out a check
right.
of millions of dollars to everybody. First of all, to say thank you. Secondly, to say you're part of the team.
That's right.
And let's go.
That's right.
I mean, it's kind of like, come on, let's go. And that's a feeling that everybody wants to be part of something.
That's right.
We live in this social media world where everyone is hiding behind their frigging phone, and they can be anybody or nobody.
Yep.
Most of them are nobodies, with envy and jealousy, two of the worst emotions in history, right? It will turn you into lying under the bed crying and cowering because you don't have any confidence, you don't know. You also talked about failure and success, right? We learn so much more from failure than we do from success.
If
all
you
those
learn.
no's, if you're learning.
If you become
but
a
then
victim
you need to
of it.
listen. Right, but you need to be able to listen.
That's right.
Right? There are people who will sit there and all they want to do is wait to say the next thing they want to say, as opposed to sit and listen and let it ride over them
really assess how they contributed to those failures, and then pivot away from that into another direction. Most people are unwilling to have that introspective perspective.
Keep a journal. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, but
that's why
so
David's such a
important.
great guy.
Exactly.
Because it's what he talks about.
Exactly. Accepting your failures, identifying them. Look, I run a trading school, okay? It's an academy called Wall Street Global Trading Academy, teaching young people. We embarked during COVID into one of the grandest revolutions in the democratization of the trading community, right? Suddenly, everybody who was not an accredited investor before 2020 could not trade the market. Suddenly, with Webull and with Robinhood, everyone with $100 and an iPhone could suddenly trade the market. They embarked on a time where they were all sitting at home with a couple of shekels because they got a stimulus check, right? The meme phenomenon was happening. Wall Street became all eyes that they were looking at because they were sheltered at home in place, and they thought it was a get-rich-quick scheme, and most of them lost all the money. I spent 3-4 years analyzing all those meme stocks and how they traded, and all these people on social media were posting pictures on the back of a Bugatti with stacks of 10,000s who never made any money and didn't have any success. So at the end of the day, we are so detached in social media from people. We don't even know how to look somebody in the eyes and talk to them and communicate, and that's where you build confidence and trust. Right, with all that. And so unfortunately, what you're doing is so groundbreaking, because what's happening with social media is we're being torn away from that. People are hiding behind some persona and really
waiting
not
for something
growing.
to happen versus going out.
Exactly.
When we grew up, it was a contact sport. You had to go look somebody in the eye and explain what you're doing and get them to align or disagree with you. And if you couldn't do that, you weren't going anywhere, because even when I was running around in the mid-90s, there wasn't a lot of technology.
Exactly.
Cell phones were just coming out.
Yeah.
So, this is what we're building, is a democratized, decentralized infrastructure for small business owners that can tap into a bigger collective, can leverage into the best resources, can be a part of a community, and have persistence, perseverance, and if you don't have persistence, patience, and perseverance, the long game's not going to work for you, and then you take short-term decisions, and that tends to hurt your overall value. And so I just feel like there needs to be a champion for the small business owner, and there needs to be a partner to them, and
that's you, and that's
me.
Grant Cardone.
And that's Grant, and that's
right.
that's why we partnered, because he was already doing
that's
it.
Genius.
He was democratizing and decentralizing crowdfunding into multifamily, highest quality units, institutional-based units, giving access to the average person to be able to do that. And he got criticized for it, but now he's just exploding, especially with our new Bitcoin fund. combining real estate with Bitcoin, and he innovated that as well. And so that's what I've innovated for the small business space. So we're great partners, and he is Mr. 10X. You know, there's nothing that keeps him thinking small, because as soon as we do something, he's like, if we could do it once, we can do it 10 times. If we do it 10 times, we can do it 10 times more, and then we do it 10 times more. So let's go after 1,000x growth, and that's what we do. And we love getting out and meeting people like you who have a legacy, who have been successful, who've seen a lot of people come and go, and you know what success looks like.
Yeah, I got goosebumps, because it's just, for me, I'm seeing how this is it's really exciting. It's an amazing opportunity. So just to break down, if you are completely like out of your mind, because you'd love to understand this, you can watch it more than once. At the end of the day, if you're a small business owner and you've come to that spot in the road where it could be a pebble in your shoe or a bump in the road where you suddenly don't know. And I don't know is a legitimate answer to a lot of questions. That's how you end up learning. But you need to run into someone who has confidence and you can trust, right? So imagine being at that point in your career and plugging into a network like you're describing, with all of those components in it. And it's suddenly like you will have a sigh. You can just go, oh my God, all that weight, that 100-pound bag of rocks that you've been carrying around, that's been stressing you out and probably making you drink and smoke way too much, and it's impeding your growth and success. Imagine if you could just plug in. It's a matter of being able to let go, right? Almost like let go, let God type of thing, right? Relinquish control of your baby and plug into a network like that. And that's how you grow. That's how you become great, right? Which is amazing.
Yeah.
Let me step back for 1 second, because you've said so much and I'm still trying to process it all. Let's talk about 10X. So let's to recap this thing. Amazing career, 29 Amex, right? And all the things that you've built since then. So a serial entrepreneur, an unbelievable founder, CEO, all of that. Also what you talked about, for me, I want to talk to you again, because the small business opportunity for people to meet somebody like you, I mean, this is going to be one of the most grand, you're a renaissance man, really, just say, because your thought, your mindset is way, way beyond. Forget about AI, it's beyond AI in my opinion. Let's talk about NX, talk about the health company.
Yeah, 10X Health, it's one of our investments. And the reason that I made the investment is I was working for some clients and with some clients that during COVID were keeping me super healthy. New age health, IVs, peptides, exosome treatments, things that were just keeping me running hard, and I never got sick, and our whole team, I had them on it. And I was like, I got to own one of these companies, because they were highly fragmented, very mom and pop, very disorganized, no systems, no structures.
And still are.
And still are.
Yeah.
And so I went to Grant and said, Grant, we need to have a healthcare company. And Grant said, I want at least one business one day that we can build that can touch 8 billion people. And I said, based on my experience, the only thing that you're actually going to be able to do that with is health. Yeah. Because it's the worst thing on this planet for everybody.
And we all have it, or don't.
And we all have to have it in order to have any quality of life. And I have a lot of wealthy friends, and what's wealth if it comes at the expense of being unhealthy, right? Sir. And so people spend their whole life trying to create this wealth so they can spend time with their families and do things they love, and as soon as they retire, they die.
Yeah, exactly.
So, or they die with no cash because they're just unhealthy. And so our health, we want to get on the very front end. I don't actually want to say we're a health company, even though we are. I want to be a human optimization, a human optimization and longevity company. Because if you stay healthy, you don't get sick. So you don't need health care. You need wealth and health, right? Correct. And so we're a human optimization and longevity organization that starts with your genetic disposition. Right. We have a few different ways that we look at that. And then we take your blood, which is telling us what's happening in real time in your body. Right. You put those two things.
From a cellular and genetic level, which is, let me just interrupt you for a second, because now we've gone on another jag, which is so important for people to know. We live in this world where we eat too much, we drink too much, we're way too stressed out, we end up getting sick. The healthcare system, we don't even want to touch that because that's crazy. And what ends up happening is we're not proactive, right? There's no prophylactic approach to our health. We end up getting sick, and then we sort of supplement it, medicate it, and all that kind of stuff, when you never actually ever get better. You may treat it, there's no cure for it by any means. And so there's a whole revolution going on in the health space. I just want to give everyone a little backdrop on that from all different levels. Anti-aging, longevity, right? Genetic and cellular health, right? Think about it. Our bodies are a perfect unit, right? We were born with organs that work perfectly, right? And as we get older and as we put more stuff and we're out in the world and we are sort of inundated with all the garbage that is out there, our body starts to break down, our cells die. When cells die, they create inflammation. Inflammation is the actual is the
root cause of all.
Correct. The root cause of all disease. So sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to give.
So that's a very good. That's you should be doing my talks. And then
I would be happy to.
And what happens is as soon as you start not feeling well, and before you even realize you don't feel well. Unfortunately, and this is what Maha is putting out there and uncovering, is most of the guidance and advice has been somewhat manipulated over the years. So what is good for you actually is not good for you.
Correct.
What is good for you is replenishing back to the body what we lose over age that we become deficient in.
Correct.
And instead of doing it with chemicals and drugs, we can be doing it with supplementation. We can be doing it with other things that for some reason have been kept off the market.
Correct.
And then if you are going to do
that's a whole nother. We don't need to go.
No, but I agree.
We don't have time for that.
But then if you are going to supplement, what is the right thing to bridge
for you? It's not a one-stop shop.
For
exactly.
you specifically.
Yes.
And so what we've rolled out is in our 10X Health platform, we tell you how you should train. We tell you and provide you.
You start out with a blood test to identify
genetics test first.
Correct. Genetics test.
To find all those breaks. Right. And then we look at blood in real time to see if things are working for you or against you.
Correct.
Then we identify based on your own personal ambitions. If you want to gain weight, maintain, lose weight, we have a supplementation for weight management that works with your genetic disposition, and then it fluctuates depending on what's going on with your blood. And so instead of taking medication, you can actually use naturally built things for you.
Correct.
Same with your supplements. You know, we have daily sachet. In fact, these are mine. I ran out of the house, so these are what I take when I'm going to eat a meal.
Okay.
And these are my weight management based on my genetics, and these are up to 100 nutrients. These are all my supplements in our proprietary time release system. Okay. But it's got my name on it. Because this is actually built for me.
Yes.
And so the thing that makes us different is everything is precision built for you, including your IVs. If you go into our clinics, you get precision IVs. And so the idea is instead of trying to treat everybody the same, which causes different problems, once we identify where you're deficient, what would be the best way to optimize you, including people that have type 1 and type 2 diabetes and other illnesses
or conditions.
Really, if you identify what's the root cause of those and you treat that and you replenish what you're deficient in, those things all of a sudden go away.
Let me interrupt you one more time. Sorry about that, but I just suffer from blood pressure problems, from heart issues, from ADHD, from mental health, mental illness, from weight gain or weight loss or whatever it is. We have a list of things. If you go and a doctor asks you, there's more things you don't have, right? We suffer from so many things, and when you go to the doctor, he'll just say, well, that's what you've got, right? Why am I so big?
Or go to another doctor.
Right, exactly. Or why am I so heavy? Well, it's because you eat too much. Not necessarily.
No.
If you look into the genes, you may be predispositioned to having mental issues, to having weight gain, to have all these things
or your
because
body
of your genetic breakdown.
Or you just are deficient in something, and when you replace it, the inflammation goes away, the brain fog goes away, the body starts to come back to life. You feel better. You start being active, and it's so sad to see people that get put on these long, because as soon as they introduce them to drugs or they put them on other modalities,
that's it. They're lost. They're gone. They're lost.
So if you can get them off that, get them back to what normal, the actual normal, and this is what people say after they were on our program. They're like, I feel better than I've ever felt in my life. And we're like, no, you're just back to what you felt like when you were 10, 11, or 12.
Exactly.
You're just back to normal.
Yep.
You becoming non-normal over time with aging, of course, that's going to happen.
Yep.
But we have people that have lost so much weight and got off all their medications. And Dana White's a perfect example from the UFC.
Yep.
He had access to the best healthcare in the world.
I saw him the other night on TV. You saw me. He looks something like amazing.
He is in such great shape. And it was just a 10-week regimen. Now he's been on it for 2.5 years, and he's still even in better shape. But look at the way he looks now, his activity levels, his endurance levels versus where he was in. He was literally on a death march.
Correct.
And so what we want to do is to be able to help people in their homes, bypass going to all the complexity of healthcare, getting passed around to people who are not owning
and who don't know
their optimization plan.
And don't say it, they don't know when they do.
And we're one of the fastest growing, and we just acquired a bunch of assets around the world. We're now up and running in 46 countries. We can operate now with our proprietary precision nutrition platform, which is precision IVs, precision supplements, precision weight management programs, precision peptides, and things of that nature. And it's all, when I say precision, it's made for you.
So I'll tell you a personal story for a second. It'll make sense to everybody. The precision part is super important because if you think about it, you don't want to be just part of everybody else and be treated like it's cookie cutter, right? Our bodies are a puzzle, and there are pieces of the puzzle that may be missing or not running on this as efficient as they need to be. And so if you're giving me something that's not in the right place, I won't go to that story. Anyway, so think about this. If somebody were to tell you that they were able to tell you exactly, you particularly, what is wrong with you and what are your conditions, explain your conditions, and make a regimen that is precisely made for you, people are so much more likely to join in on that journey than to just think, he says that to everybody, I'm just being part of the cattle that are going down the road. I'll just give you a little story for a second. So I was patient 0 for COVID, March 15, 2020. I got COVID on a plane going to Colorado. I came back to the stock exchange. Nobody had testing centers. We did here. Yeah. We had a private Chinese testing center. I was diagnosed with COVID actually 6 days later. I ended up getting meningitis, excuse me. I got meningitis. I had COVID. I had 103.7 for almost 7 weeks. I fortunately never went to the hospital. My father was a very well-known doctor who had passed away by then, but had a school of people he had trained and who sort of kept me out of the hospital and
kept you alive. By the way,
kept me alive, no doubt, because 900 people a day were dying in the parking lot of New York University Hospital. So 103.7 for 7 weeks, let's say. I was given 4 months to live. And I ended up, my whole body, my cervical spine collapsed because of the meningitis. I ended up going in and having to have my whole spine rebuilt with titanium. I've had 7 neck surgeries, right? I ended up going through a lot of stressful things in my life. Unfortunately, my wife died of cancer this past year. Also, another example of really screwed up health services. October of last year, I had been in a neck brace for 4.5 years. My body was breaking down, okay? I literally could not get out of bed. I did come in and go to work every day because that's the kind of person I am, but I literally took hours to be able to get up and get dressed. I'd been in this brace and nothing was functioning. All of my organs had stopped functioning. I connected to someone in the longevity anti-aging space, a doctor who, my wife is a filmmaker. She had made a film about a Dr. Kelsey who had come to America, wanted to join the army, and he couldn't afford it. He ended up wanted to become a doctor, couldn't afford it, joined the army, ended up he was thrown out of the army because he was a Sikh. He wore a headdress. He ended up fighting it all the way to the Supreme Court, had the law changed so that people can wear religious garb in the U.S. Armed Services. He got deployed to Iraq, ended up getting stage 4 bone cancer in the burn pits in Iraq. Came home, was given 4 months to live, and he turned his life around with peptides, with stem cells, with glutathione, with NAD, with all of these new things that everybody needs to go read about NAD. Read about the things that our body makes until we're 27 that they know it doesn't no longer makes, right? That controls your aging, controls your organs, right? Now they have compounds that you can take now to offset aging and offset all that breakdown in your system. I started the regimen in October of this past year. And you see me now.
Look at you.
I've lost 45 pounds. My skin, my nails, my brain. I had beyond. I've had COVID 6 times since then. Wow. So I have severe long COVID. Right. I've had 7 surgeries. My brain was virtually non-functioning, and I've been on all of this regimen, probably very similar to yours.
You would never know that.
And you would never know that. Right. And
but we see. Can I just tell you? That, and unfortunately, when we have patients that have cancer and stuff, we have to send them to our relationships in Mexico and treat them outside the United States. We've seen people that were told you have 6 months to live that are completely cancer-free. So when you look at you now and you look at you, that experience over the last 4 years, if somebody were to watch you make that transformation, they'd be stunned to see you right now.
Yes.
We see this all the time, and unfortunately, traditional healthcare, it just
does not embrace it. In fact, it poo-poos it completely.
It suppresses that.
Yes.
But you got to find the right people, because there's also people that think they can do that
There's still
stuff.
charlatans out there
exactly.
selling fake NAD and peptides and all that stuff too.
And cancer treatments and things of that nature. So it's a balance between the best way to know who you should work with is when somebody that you either know, trust, or like has been working with someone and can explain that transformation.
Have lived that journey, right? How else? That's
We want to be one of the most,
experience.
and that's what 10X Health. That's where we see an opportunity to be the global trusted brand, and
you're democratizing it, right? So it's not just for super wealthy people, right? Because for a lot of times people see on TV the Kardashians are the ones who are taking NAD 19 times a day.
Yeah, that's how we got featured. We were on 2 of their shows, and people were like, "What are you guys doing on their shows?" Yeah. We didn't pay for those. We were just the only ones doing it at the time. And so you're right. People see that and they think it's outside their reach. And the truth is, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year, it was.
Right.
But we're rolling out so many modalities that are actually delivering the NAD or cellular therapies that are coming out to the marketplace in ways where it's making it accessible to people and it's not this exclusive thing. And the goal here is to optimize human beings around the world at a price point that they can afford. And what people don't really put value in, they'll buy coffee cups every day and spend $10, $12 at Starbucks. They won't spend $10 on their health. But a lot of people are transforming and saying, wait a minute, I'll leave the coffee and I'll move over to the health. And if you just invested a little bit of money in yourself every day in the right things, doing it the right way, you can add years and years to your life. You can stay healthier. If you're healthier, you're happier. If you're happier, you're more productive. And you can be a better contributor to your friends, families, the ones you love, and society. And I think that's really where we see we can be the front runner in that around the world.
So I think the greatest takeaway from meeting you and hearing you is you would think that what we're talking about is just for the 1% of the 1%, which is not at all where you're coming from, or not you at all, right? You've talked about it from the small business owner and plugging them into a network that was never available for them to be their best self and to grow, and along the way, bringing hundreds and thousands of people along for the ride.
That's right.
You're talking about the health sector, and that you're not talking about it being exclusive for the 1% there, about democratizing that. So that's so moving for me to hear that from you, because in the beginning we were talking these billions and billions, and people may get thrown off like, well, that's not my world. I cannot identify with what Mr. Dawson's saying at all. But that's not what he's about at all, and it's not what your journey or your businesses are.
I think of Aaron. He called me 5 years ago. He was working in an auto dealership, snuck across the border because the cartel killed his family, learning to speak English using Google Translate. And 5 years later, he's a millionaire and he's doing amazing things. And you can take somebody that has the ambition and show them how to succeed. You can take a business owner who's grinding doing $1 million and teach him how to become 10 or 100.
Right.
You can take a person in your situation, for example, that all of a sudden becomes unwell, gets stuck in a broken system, doesn't know what to do, and you can transform them back to, you look amazing, you're healthy, you're happy, and you actually probably appreciate every day more now than you ever
100%.
did. And if then you can get even more on the front end of that, where you don't even know what you don't know because you never become that way, you just feel amazing and you're more productive and you're happier and you're contributing to society. Life is worth living.
100%.
And we're going to get a shot at doing it. And our job here at 10X, with all the things we do, it's wealth and health, is to bring the best version of that to people.
So I'm almost done. I can't let go of it yet, and I want to do this again. But at the end of the day, this is it's blowing me away in so many different ways. But the bottom line is that together we can get things done that nobody else is. And people need to realize that life is absolutely worth living. And that look, I'll tell you one quick little scenario. I'm obviously a finance person, and okay, this is what I really want to say, and I'll end it with this. Many people who have been successful and get into a space in social media and find a platform, right? Just use it for themselves, and they post a bunch of pictures, and it's meaningless, right? There are a few people, and in the most humble way possible, I would say you and I are, people who use the platform to share this message, right? To get it out there. David Meltzer also, right? David Meltzer, if you don't know, read up on him. His goal now, after being at the top and the bottom, is to bring joy to 1 billion people in the world, right? I mean, that's a God-given mission in its own right. But if you been able to achieve like we've achieved and be able to have found the things that we've found and be willing to go out and teach and bring people along for this ride and share, that's the word I was looking for, then that's more powerful than any of this stuff. It's not about us keeping it to ourselves. It's about using the platform that we have in the millions of people we can reach and sharing that message and sharing access. It's access. So anyway, you know.
Output amplifies input. So whatever you're putting out, you're going to get more back. But I think that's what what do you want to put out there? We'll come back to you.
100%. You know, and this has been an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you.
I look forward to doing this again.
Appreciate you.
Einstein on Wall Street. You're blowing my mind here. Let's talk about it another time. I'm out of here, and that's all I got to say about that.